Imagine a world where the government doesn't dictate how you live, but quietly stands by, helping you chase your dreams. A world where every voice matters, where freedom of speech, thought, and choice isn't a luxury or a gift from the powerful, but a reality carved into the stone of history. That's the world one man fought for, a man whose name became synonymous with democracy, Thomas Jefferson. He wasn't just the third person to lead the United States as president, he was a thinker whose ideas lit the spark of liberty in millions of hearts. But who was he, really? What path did this son of Virginia walk to change the course of history? And why do his words, penned over 200 years ago, still ring so true from America's shores to the lands we call home today? Today, we're taking a journey through time. We'll peek into the life of a man who believed the state should serve people, not chain them. We'll see how he, step by step, laid the groundwork for a free society in America, defending ideas that seemed wild for his time. Who stood by his side in this fight? What minds and hearts helped him turn dreams into reality? And most importantly, what can we, living in our own countries, take from his legacy today as we search for our own paths to true freedom? Thomas Jefferson isn't just a name in a textbook. He's a symbol of the struggle for a world where power lifts us up, not holds us down. Born in 1743 in the rolling hills of Virginia, surrounded by endless forests that whispered freedom to him from childhood, he was a dreamer and a doer. A man who didn't just imagine a perfect world but picked up a pen, a hammer, and his voice to build it. So let's not waste a second, let's dive into his story, explore his world, and think about how his lessons can inspire us right now. Ready? Here we go! Part 2, Short Biography and Rise. Thomas Jefferson came into the world on April 13, 1743, born to a well-off family of planters in Virginia, a land where thick forests and wide fields whispered of new possibilities. His father, Peter Jefferson, was a surveyor and farmer. His mother, Jane Randolph, came from a prominent family. From a young age, Thomas stood out with an unquenchable curiosity. Picture a little boy flipping through his dad's library for hours. He tackled Latin, Greek, French, diving into Aristotle's philosophy and Newton's laws of nature. But among all that knowledge, one idea set his heart ablaze, the idea of freedom, which became his guiding star for life. At 33, he took a step that changed the world forever. Picture the sticky summer heat of Philadelphia in 1776. A young lawyer, not yet weighed down by years of politics, sits at a simple desk in a rented room. A candle flickers, his pen scratches the paper, and from his hand emerges the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These weren't just pretty words, they were a thunderous challenge to tyranny, a shout against an empire choking the colonies with taxes and laws. But that was just the start. Jefferson didn't stop at words. He became Virginia's governor in 1779, right in the thick of the Revolutionary War. He had to save the state from British troops, making snap decisions in the chaos. Then he served as a minister to France, soaking up the Enlightenment vibes, chatting with thinkers who dreamed of liberty as much as he did. And finally, in 1801, he led the nation as America's third president. But his life isn't just a list of jobs. It's a story of fighting to make the state a tool in the people's hands, not a whip in the rulers. He believed real democracy rested on three pillars: education to open eyes, free speech to give a voice, and decentralized power to hand control back to communities. He didn't just dream about it, he acted. His whole life was a battle to make America not just a dot on the map, but a shining example of people building their own future. And that fight began in his youth, with those first books he read by candlelight in Virginia. Part 3: Key Actions for a Free Society. So what exactly did Thomas Jefferson do to make America a place where people aren't slaves to the state, but its creators? Let's break it down. First and most famous, the Declaration of Independence. It wasn't just a sheet of paper with nice words. It became the heart of the American Revolution and later the backbone of the U.S. Constitution. Imagine this, in a world where kings and emperors saw themselves as divine rulers, Jefferson wrote that power comes from the people, that government is a servant, not a master. He threw down the gauntlet to centuries of tradition, saying, people have the right to rise up if their government betrays them. That became the foundation America built its freedom on. Second, the fight for religious freedom. Back then, religion was often a tool of control. Church and state were so tangled that believing differently could cost you your freedom or your life. Jefferson wasn't having it. In 1786, in Virginia, he pushed through the statute for religious freedom, a law declaring no one can force you to believe what you don't want to. Picture how that stunned a world where heretics could have been toast just yesterday. He wrote, "My views on God are my business, not the state's." That law lit the way for anyone craving to think and believe freely. Third, education. Jefferson was dead set that an uneducated people can't protect their liberty. He dreamed of a country where everyone, farmers, craftspeople, you name it, could access knowledge. And he didn't just dream, he founded the University of Virginia in 1819. It was the first school in America where students could pick what to study, free from religious dogma. He said, an educated people is the only safeguard of freedom. Imagine, instead of memorizing prayers, debates about science, philosophy, human rights. It was a breakthrough that turned education into democracy's weapon. And finally, as president, Jefferson showed words were just the start. He slashed the federal government to the bone, cut taxes, even disbanded part of the army in peacetime. Why? He believed the less the state meddles in people's lives, the more they can decide for themselves. He said, the best government governs least. That was a radical move in a world where power loved control. But these ideas didn't pop up alone. Great minds helped him. James Madison, dubbed the father of the Constitution, was his close friend and ally. Madison took Jefferson's ideas about decentralization and baked them into the document that defines American democracy. Benjamin Franklin, with his sharp wit and practical humor, added realism to those dreams. He could convince even the doubters. And in France, Jefferson spent hours with Enlightenment thinkers Voltaire, Rousseau, Diderot. Their ideas about liberty and rights fueled his fire. Together with these giants, Jefferson built a world where people come first. Part 4, Influence and Followers. Thomas Jefferson's ideas didn't stop at America's borders, they soared across oceans, sparking fires of freedom worldwide. Picture France in the late 1700s, revolution roars through Paris streets, people shaking off monarchy's chains. Amid chants of liberty, equality, and fraternity, you hear echoes of Jefferson's declaration. His principles inspired the French, who dreamed of a world without kings or tyrants. He was there in France those years, watching his ideas come alive in another nation's fight. Take Poland. In 1791, it adopts one of the world's first constitutions. What's in it? The notion that power serves people, not crushes them, a straight-up nod to Jefferson's belief that government's a deal between citizens, not a divine handout. In Latin America, Simón Bolívar, the legendary liberator battling Spain, read Jefferson's works. Bolívar called him the apostle of liberty and dreamed of mirroring America's path in his corner of the world. Years later, in the 20th century, Jefferson's voice rang out again. India, fighting free from the British Empire, South Africa, throwing off apartheid, they all turned to his legacy. Why? Because Jefferson showed something simple yet brilliant. The state isn't some lofty force above us, it's what we make for our own good. He proved freedom isn't a ruler's gift, it's a right we claim ourselves. His followers carried the torch. Abraham Lincoln, battling slavery, leaned on Jefferson's words about equality. Even knowing Jefferson wasn't perfect, he owned slaves himself. But ideas outgrow their creators. In the 20th century, human rights activists, from Martin Luther King Jr. to democracy fighters in Eastern Europe, quoted Jefferson, reminding us freedom needs defending every day. Even now, in global pushes for justice, we hear his thoughts echoing. He didn't just leave America a legacy, he gave the world a compass for anyone longing to live free. Part 5, Lessons for Today. What about us today, in 2025? We're at a crossroads. The choice is ours. Will we build a government that serves us, or let it weigh us down again? Thomas Jefferson's ideas can be our guide. Think about it. He fought for decentralization, for power closer to the people. What can we do? Give more say to communities, from small towns to big cities, so we shape our own futures, not some distant capital. Jefferson saw education as freedom's key. Imagine a place where every school and college teaches not just facts, but how to think, how to stand up for your rights, how to fear no authority. We could pour into knowledge so every citizen, from kids to retirees, knows their voice counts. And then there's free speech and belief. Jefferson taught that these aren't government handouts, they're our birthrights. We could build a land where journalists don't hush out of fear, where everyone believes what they choose without judgment.